Hello? Can you see me? I'm here. Behind you, look! Don't you run away! Please stay.
Hi guys, it's Izzy and today I'm back with another very long awaited conspiracy. So first of all, I do just want to put it out there, I am really sorry about my lack of uploads lately. I am trying to stick to a new schedule from now on where I've planned out my months. So I'm trying to get a video out every 2 weeks. So, you know, I've put it out there now, so let's hope I can stick to it. I am really sorry if you are waiting on the Stanley Kubrick part 2 video. I promise you that is my next video that's coming out. I did actually intend to sit down and film it today, but last night I ended up rabbit holing down another very interesting topic which I've not seen before, and I have a feeling if I find it interesting, you guys might find it quite interesting as well. So I just want to, you know, do a little bit more research into that one, and then hopefully, you know, I have finally got part 2 to come out. I literally swear I have been researching this for months and months and months, so I promise you it is the next video that's coming. But in the meantime, I do want to share a video today which I have had on the back burner for the longest time. It's a topic that has interested me for so long. So people have been requesting another out there wacky conspiracy theory like the flat earth theory, just because, let's face it, the out there conspiracy theories, they are the most entertaining whether or not you believe them. So I have been scouring the internet for the longest time for a theory that sort of matches the same sort of level of wackiness as, you know, flat earth, and I think I have finally come across something. And annoyingly, I have already filmed this video, but it turned out to be such a disaster, like I could not even let it see the light of day on YouTube. Like, do you ever have those days where anything that could go wrong ends up going wrong? That was literally me when I was filming this video the first time around. It was so annoying. So first of all, my microphone turned off halfway through filming the video and I had no idea. The difference in audio was annoying me so much, there's no way I could have shared it. Also, what was really annoying is I had the viewfinder on the first time round. I have turned it around for today's video, and because I had a really cool background on, I don't know what was happening. I kept looking in the viewfinder every 2 seconds and getting distracted by the little animals in the background, and I was ending up looking like the world's most vain person, constantly looking in the viewfinder, and that was just really annoying me when I was editing. I just know it would have been so annoying to watch it. And the last thing that went wrong, and I hold my hands up, this was completely my fault, I actually ended up getting far too drunk in the video. So I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I am literally the most camera shy person that has ever existed. Like, for me, my least favorite part about being a YouTuber is sitting in front of the camera. I literally hate it so much. Like, I love all the editing and the research that goes on behind the scenes, but for me it is such a task to sit down and film a video, and for me that feeling of, you know, turning on the camera, being sat in front of it, like, the butterflies never go away from it. So in the last video, do not judge me, well, you can if you want, I literally don't care, I decided to have the little helping hand of some Dutch courage, and I put together a cocktail made up of the last 2 ingredients in my cupboards, which were Malibu and Barocca. You know, fight off that hangover before you get it. And if anyone's wondering, it literally tasted as rancid as it sounds. But I poured myself this drink way too strong, and I was literally slurring my words by the end of the video. Like, it was not a pretty sight whatsoever. So, you know, every day is a learning day. I have learned from my mistakes. I'm on the coffee today instead, so hopefully that can get me through it instead. Today's video is a topic that I am so excited to share because it's a topic that's fascinated me for so long. Like, what even is going on in Antarctica? At its peak season, there are only about 4,000 scientists and military personnel that live there, so not many people in this lifetime will have the privilege of ever seeing what it's like there. So with the mystery obviously comes a lot of conspiracy theories and wacky ideas about what could really be going on there. I have rabbit holed, and I'm just warning you in advance, it is out there, it is wacky. I feel like a lot of people come across my channel and they get so annoyed about the concept of conspiracy theories, and I just want to say, like, relax, like, it's really not that deep.
Wait. All of you!
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
Like, I feel like a lot of people take the conspiracy theories the wrong way. They think I'm trying to, you know, influence people on their decisions, when that is not the case at all. I just find them interesting to research. You know, I am not a scientist. I do not claim to hold the answers of the universe, and I don't claim to know for sure what is going on in Antarctica. I mean, there are people that literally dedicate their life's work to discovering what is going on over there, and, you know, I'm not one of those people. But on the flip side, I do also want to say on the topic of conspiracy theories, especially when it comes to the ideas of, scientific knowledge, that let's just be realistic here. In the year 2023, we do not hold all the answers about what is going on in planet Earth. And let's face it, there are times as humanity where we've got it wrong before. Let's just remember a time where thalidomide and smoking were actually recommended by doctors to treat morning sickness, and we all know how that turned out. And let's not forget that things that we take for granted now as scientific knowledge, like the theory of evolution, when Darwin came out with this theory, he was completely ridiculed by his peers at the time because it went against, the religious norms of the time, and people didn't want to hear him out. And now, like I said, we take that for granted. So all I'm trying to say is the purpose of these videos is to encourage you just to open up your mind a little bit to maybe the idea that we don't know all the answers out there. So yeah, with that said, let's dive into a topic that I find very, very fascinating: Antarctica. Sorry, my mic is down there. I don't think it's on camera, but that's what I was doing there. Let's dive into what you guys clicked on the video for, the weird and wacky conspiracy theories, and it would be rude not to start it off with the hollow earth theory. So I have talked, as you know, about the flat earth theory before, and there is a little bit of Antarctica that is mixed into that. So basically, flat earthers believe that Antarctica isn't at one of the poles, but is in fact the surrounding of the flat earth, and it covers the globe in an ice wall which stops you basically going off the end of the plate. So to be honest, when I was researching hollow earth theory, this was an idea which I could get behind a little bit more. So hear me out on this one. So before we dive into what the hollow earth theory really is, let's take a look at the official given story. So the idea in contemporary science is that the earth is an unbroken series of layers made up of the crust and liquid magma surrounding a dense, hot core made primarily of iron and nickel. So I just want to put it out there as well that throughout history there have been a lot, and I mean a lot, of people who have put forward a contradictory view. So yeah, there's been a lot of people throughout history who have put forward the idea of either a hollow earth or the idea that the earth contains a lot of substantial space in the middle of it. The first person who made a true huge impact in the hollow earth theory was Edmund Halley, and he put this theory through all the way back in 1692. And before people start rolling their eyes thinking Edmund Halley is some sort of weird whack job, I just want to put it out there that he was actually a very, very intelligent and reputable astronomer. Some of his work still has a huge impact on the world of science to this day, and he was probably the most famous for discovering Halley's Comet. So I just do want to say something about the pronunciation about this. I've heard it pronounced so many different ways. His last name I've heard Hawley, Halley, Haley, but I've looked it up and it is supposedly Hawley. I don't know about you guys, that doesn't sit on my tongue so well, like I would say like Haley or something, but I've looked it up, apparently it's Hawley. So Hawley's theory is that the world is made up of a hollow shell which is about 800 kilometers thick, and then underneath that there are two centric shells and then an inner sun. So he thought that the inner atmosphere was luminous and was capable of supporting light, much as it does on the flip side of the crust, which is, where we live. And he came up with this idea because he noticed that there was gas escaping from the crust on the earth. Now, I don't know about you, but I think for 1692, this isn't a shabby theory to put together. I mean, all in all, if you actually strip it down, it's not too dissimilar to what we believe nowadays. I mean, we believe that the earth is made up of layers, and so did he. And we believe that there's an inner core that's rotating, and he just believed it was an inner sun that's rotating. So Hawley wasn't the only person to put forward the idea of a hollow earth theory. In the 19th century, John Cleves Symes Jr. also proposed a theory, although I do want to note that this time round it was seen as being less scientifically viable and more as a pseudoscience. Although his work has still made a huge impact on the world he left behind, and for example, Hamilton in Ohio still has a monument dedicated to him and his ideas. So Symes' theory was a little bit more simplified to Halley's theory. So for example, he didn't think that there were 3 layers inside the earth, he thought that it was just one hollow earth. However, Symes' theory went a little bit further than Hawley's. He believed that there were huge holes which acted as entrances into the hollow earth at the North and South Pole, and these have since been referred to as Symes holes. And what is interesting about this theory is what has come to light in recent years. So in 2017, there were satellite images which revealed that in the North Pole, there are actually huge holes which keep reappearing in the same sorts of spots over and over again. And these holes are referred to as polyneas, and they are huge. They are huge holes. They are bigger than your mom's. I'm sorry, that was immature of me. No, but the point is there are huge holes which are literally like the size of Ireland, like they are massive. So, you know, does this hold a little bit of truth that there might actually be entrances covered by ice in the North and South Pole? So in 1818, Symes published his curricular #1 works, and he declared as a scientific fact that not only the world was capable of supporting life inside of it, but that it actually did support life inside of it, and that this was a fact, and that this wasn't only applicable to Earth but to every other planet. So he proposed an expedition to find one of these holes in person, and he actually had so many supporters that this was taken to Congress to vote whether or not he should receive the funding to go and try and find these holes for his scientific research in person, but eventually the grant was denied. However, since Symes' times, it's been suggested that there might not just be 2 entrances in the hollow Earth, but that there might be entrances and cracks in the Earth's surface all over the planet. So other suggested locations from people who have come forwards and said that they've been to the other side of the world's crust include Paris, Staffordshire, England, Montreal, Hangzhou in China, and even the Amazon rainforest. So with all this evidence, why is the hollow Earth theory not the given theory after all? Well, since, you know, the idea of a hollow Earth theory has been put forwards, there's been a lot of contradictory evidence, you know, supporting the idea that the world is solid. This is considered to be the experiment which proved once and for all that the world is not hollow.
Scientists from Glasgow have recreated the famous Schiehallion experiment, in which the mass of the entire planet was calculated using relatively basic tools and a Perthshire mountain. The work was first done in 1774 by the then astronomer Royal. He came up with a weight we now know wasn't too far from being right.
This is what he did. He dangled a long plumb line on a platform 2/3 of the way up the mountain. He knew 2 gravitational forces would act upon it. The main gravity would obviously be coming from the mass of the Earth, pulling it down. But the mass of the mountain itself would pull the plumb line towards it, slightly off vertical. We've exaggerated it here. That gravitational effect is what he measured. From the angle the plumb line was deflected, Maskelyne could calculate the mass of the Earth relative to the mountain. He knew what the mountain weighed, so he could work out the weight of the Earth.
In fact, gravity as a whole is considered the main reason why this theory doesn't hold up in practice. Huge objects tend to clump together gravitationally and pull each other in, creating solid objects like planets. Ordinary matter is considered to be not strong enough to hold up against the fields of gravity.
If you've got a big enough planet with enough gravity, essentially, then anything that gets too big will sink. And gravity just works in it. It doesn't care which angle you're at. So it
pushes it back
into a circle, to a sphere, if it's big enough.
And this basically means that the Earth wouldn't be able to be the size that it is and hollow without collapsing in on itself. Another reason that the Earth is considered not to be hollow is due to the study of seismic waves. The time that it takes for seismic waves to travel through and around the Earth directly contradicts a fully hollow sphere. The evidence suggests that the Earth is probably filled with solid rock and mantle, much as we consider to be true to this day. So why are there still believers of the hollow Earth theory? So there was a man called Rodney Clough, and he was a huge supporter and follower of Symes. And he also believed that the Earth had an interior sun, and that the inside of the Earth, much as it is on the outside, is divided by night and day. So Rodney Clough actually famously beefed the flat earthers. So he wrote a book, The World Top Secret, Our Earth is Hollow, and he said how he doesn't know how flat earthers are so confused. He said the world is not flat, it's hollow, and that they reject all the evidence that's out there. Oh my god, the beef between the flat earthers and the hollow earthers.
It's all the drama, Mick. I just love it.
So according to Clough, there is a reason why people have never been able to visit and discover one of Symes' holes, and that this is because it's all part of a huge global cover-up, and it's a huge international banking conspiracy. So he believes that's why Symes' initial expedition was denied the funding, and that why people haven't actually been since. So Clough actually put forward his own plans to have expeditions go out there, and these were from the 2000s to the 2010s.
I, for one, want to go with you on the voyage to the hollow Earth. But perhaps we can go over to some of your charts over there and you can show me exactly where you think it is. And then we can plan our trip.
Sure.
Okay, let's go. So now, with this expedition, and when is this going to take place, the newest expedition?
Well, our estimate is next summer, but it's all depending on the funding.
But these all seem to fall through as well. So there were a number of setbacks for him, including members of the team falling ill due to cancer. There were fatal plane crashes, which led to a hiatus of the expedition. Another team was trying to go more recently, but as we all know, there has been major setbacks in everything on planet Earth as an after effect of the pandemic. Another reason people think that the North and South Poles are all part of a giant government cover-up is due to the satellite images that exist of them. NASA satellite images, they always show the North and South Poles as being completely blurred out, or even just removed from the picture altogether. And I feel like I'm going crazy here, but I feel like I actually looked this up as a kid. Like when I discovered what Google Maps was, I went to, the North and the South Poles. I tried to find Santa's hangout, and I do remember that there wasn't an awful lot to see. I think from memory, it was blurred as well back then. So there is an explanation from NASA, and a scientist called Torsten Marcus explained how the satellites, they often don't fully go past the North and the South Poles, so the pictures aren't the most clear. He also said that we picked the inclinations based on our scientific requirements, and the poles themselves have not been that interesting to cover, so we skipped them. So I know that NASA is not going to go about their scientific day-to-day investigations based on what I, Izzy K, finds to be the most interesting. But I don't know about you, I would argue that the North and South Pole are quite interesting. So it kind of blows my mind that they're just, skipped over in terms of scientific research, that they're just like, nothing going on there, skip. But again, I'm probably never going to be listened to by the world of NASA. And the next reason why people still believe that the world is hollow is an argument that I have actually put forward to a lot of people in my own personal life, and I've actually been in quite heated arguments about this. So let's just bear in mind, let's just think about this for a fact, that everything that we do know about the centre of the Earth is just a theory at this point. I'm not saying hollow Earth is right, I'm not saying the mainstream idea is right, I'm just saying that both sides of the argument at this moment in time in 2023, they are both just theories, and people get so angry when I say that, but the fact of the matter is we've never been in the inside of the Earth. We don't know for sure. So don't know about you, but when you were a kid, did you ever think to yourself, I wonder how far deep I can dig? I remember digging holes in my back garden thinking, I'm gonna make it all the way to Australia. Well, a lot of adults have actually thought that as well. They've wanted to, dig to the centre of the Earth and discover what's really down there. There was a US project called Project Mohole, which began in 1961, and this was an attempt to drill through the Earth's crust in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Mexico, where the crust is known to be particularly shallow. And in 1966, yes, you guessed it, this project actually ended up running out of funding, and they could not get any further. So the Earth's crust is on average about 40 kilometers deep. And this is something I do want to highlight, the fact that we have never even drilled through the Earth's crust. We have only, in the grand scheme of things, not dug very, very deep whatsoever, which again reiterates the fact that everything we know about the Earth and what's going on inside is just a theory at this point. So the furthest that we've actually been able to dig ever into the 40 kilometers of the world's crust is 12 kilometers, so not even halfway through. And this was done in the Kola in Russia, so we were unable to dig any further than 12 kilometers. And one of the main reasons why we weren't able to, as if I had any involvement in the project, one of the main reasons we've not been able to dig any further into the center of the crust is because it's just too bloody hard and the equipment keeps getting stuck. So, maybe this does allude to the fact that we are on the right lines with, molten lava in the middle. So what is really beneath the surface of Antarctica? Is it a lost city or even aliens? So we really don't know much about the landmass of Antarctica. It's covered by a 3,000 meter sheet of ice, which, just for a bit of context, that is so deep that even Mount Fuji, if you put it inside, it would only just start peeking out at the top. But what if these Symes holes actually created a portal to another world? And what if UFOs don't come from outer space after all, but actually come from inside the world and are made from a lost civilization, an ancient civilization that has remained untouched for years and has let them become so much more advanced than anything that is on the outside surface. Well, this is what Hollow Earthers believe. And the idea that there is an underground world is something that has been around for quite some time. In fact, even in ancient Buddhist teachings, there is the notion that there might be an underground world and an underground civilization, and this is referred to as Agartha. So you might be thinking, Izzy, you have gone off at a bit of a tangent here. What does the Hollow Earth theory have to do with Antarctica? Well, I want to tell you all about a very interesting expedition from an American naval officer. He was called Admiral Richard Byrd, and he went on a mission to discover what was really going on in the poles of the Earth in May 1926. So conspiracy theories have gone wild over his supposed diary entries from this mission. The story goes that he wrote everything down in very detailed diary entries about his expedition, and then when he came back to the US, he was completely sworn to secrecy by the US government about what he really saw there. So his diary entries are really wild. So he supposedly went down on a mission and he was going towards Antarctica. And as he was going up there, he discovered where he was expecting to see glaciers and ice mass. He started to fly up towards a mountain valley range, and it was actually covered in grass and looked like nothing he expected to see. And something else which he said that really shocked him, when he was looking down below, he was making out these creatures, and he could have sworn he saw mammoths beneath him. The story does take a little bit of a weird turn, so he claims that as he's flying up further and further, he is met by UFOs which are beside him, and all the controls of his plane start to play up, and he doesn't end up with the control of the planes, but instead he feels like he's being taken on this mission by these UFOs or flying objects beneath him, and they guide him to land. He said his radio started to crackle, and then someone started speaking to him in English, although he said it was with like a Nordic or German accent, and they supposedly said to him, "Welcome, Admiral, to our domain. We shall land you exactly in 7 minutes. Relax, Admiral, you're in good hands." And yeah, he says he was escorted around this world of mystery to him. It was like nothing he expected to see, and he was basically taken around and shown this ancient civilization.
Famous polar explorer Admiral Richard Byrd flew reconnaissance missions over the North Pole. Byrd allegedly reported in his private journal about a mysterious land beyond the North Pole, which he called the center of the great unknown.
Admiral Richard Byrd was able to fly to the North Pole and back and recorded flying over lush green areas where none should have been. And then 3 years later, he flew over the South Pole.
It's rumored that when Admiral Byrd's task force actually got to Antarctica, that one of the first things they discovered was an entrance into a hollow Earth civilization that was populated by very, very advanced beings.
Admiral Byrd made a lot of unusual statements, including talking about what he called a new kind of craft that could fly from pole to pole.
And yeah, supposedly when he came back to the US, he was so excited to tell the world about what he'd seen down there. But the US government basically said to him they knew about it already, and that they did not want him to reveal what he had really seen. And it was only until later, when his diaries were bought, that people started to read them and be like, what is this? How did we never hear about something like this before? Now, just to play devil's advocate, I've got to put it out there that I'm not the biggest believer in these diary entries being the proof of another civilization. As interesting as they are, I'm not too sure if I believe the fact that there were mammoths. Maybe there were like mammoth-like creatures, but an animal that hasn't evolved since the Ice Age, I'm not too sure if I believe that. Maybe he's seen something that was a mammoth-like creature, for lack of better words. Maybe he's seen a creature that he had never seen before, and then in his mind he assumed they were mammoths. Like, this has happened a lot throughout history. Have you ever seen like paintings from like the Middle Ages, for example? People have looked at them, interpreted like, oh my god, there must have been dinosaurs in the Middle Ages, because they've literally painted dinosaurs with them. And there is a very valid explanation. So these painters, they obviously had never been to countries such as like India or anything like that, and they were painting elephants. So they had never seen these elephants in person, the people who were painting the pictures. So they could only do their best based on the descriptions that they were told. So they sort of put two and two together, and they ended up painting things that looked nothing like elephants, but rather what we believe dinosaurs to have looked like back in the day. So again, I think this might be a case of he just seen something and, for lack of better words, called it a mammoth, but I don't know if I believe that he actually saw something that wasn't evolved since the ice ages. Another thing that I thought of when I seen this theory as well is that maybe he didn't actually reach the poles of the Earth. Maybe he only thought he did. Since 1926, doubts have been raised by other people, such as the Norwegian-American aviator Bernt Bauhun. Basically, he looked into the speed that Admiral Byrd's plane was going, and from his own studies, he sort of deducted the fact that he doesn't believe that his plane flew fast enough and for long enough to actually reach the poles of the Earth. So again, suspicions have been raised that maybe he didn't actually fly as far as he thought he did, hence why he didn't see what he was expecting to see when he got there. Much like how when Columbus discovered America, I mean, I don't know how you can discover a continent that people already live on, but you know, that's a rant for another day. Like, he initially thought that he was going to reach India, so that's why, you know, Native Americans were commonly referred to as Indians back in the day. When in reality, Columbus just hadn't reached what he thought he reached. I think that might be a very similar case here, but you know what? This is such an interesting story nonetheless.
So ignore the state of me, but I just came across something very interesting when I was editing, and I've got my little buddy here. Hello. There's actually reports of a lot of people who have been to the Antarctic feeling like they've been guided along their missions by some sort of weird presence. Take a look at what Shackleton, one of the first explorers of Antarctica, had to say about his journey there.
Ernest Shackleton was an explorer whose entire group experienced the phenomenon in the area during their travels, but that was only the beginning. Shackleton's tale goes a little like this. He and his companions were trying to travel to South Georgia Island by boat. After a tiring journey, they attempted to trek across a whaling station in search of some food and shelter, but while they were trekking, the entire group, which consisted of 3 people, believed that another mysterious presence was actually walking alongside them. The group walked for 36 hours over mountains and glaciers, and all of them believed that there were 4 and not just 3. Since then, tons of people who have been stranded or struggling to find their destination in Antarctica have reported feeling the presence guiding them along the right path.
So yeah, maybe Byrd's account isn't as crazy as I initially thought. Maybe it's all just part of a bigger thing and a bigger mystery that's happening in Antarctica that we just don't understand. What do you think about this?
And last but not least, are there pyramids in Antarctica? So let's for a moment talk about the fact that there may have been an ancient civilization in Antarctica and that they may have left evidence behind them of their existence. So it's commonly assumed that Antarctica has always been way too cold for any civilization to set up there. But Antarctica has not always been the climate that it is today. So again, another study that came forwards from 2017, and between the satellite images and everything like that, oh my gosh, 2017 must have really been the year of research for Antarctica because they discovered so much then. So yeah, in 2017, scientists actually drilled into the landmass or the ice surface of Antarctica, and they found evidence that thousands of years ago there were actually plants which indicated that it looked a little bit like a rainforest. So if it was a lot greener than what it is today, it's not too far-fetched when you think about it to imagine that there might have once been life in Antarctica. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that some areas of Antarctica might not have been completely covered in ice until 4000 BC, which in the grand scheme of things is not that long ago. And people have really speculated if we might have known about the existence of Antarctica for much longer than we think about in modern days. Like maybe we once knew about it and then civilizations since didn't, and then we've sort of rediscovered it. Like in the Joe Rogan show, he explains how it's remarkable that Antarctica appears in maps in the 1500s, despite the fact it was not officially discovered until 1820. So how did civilizations back in the 1500s know about it, but then completely forget about it 300 years later? For example, the Pinkerton World Map from the 1813 shows a world without Antarctica, but there's maps such as the Walt C. Waller World Map from 1530, and this map shows Antarctica in a great amount of detail and refers to it as the southern land, and even makes notions to the fact that there was an ancient civilization there, and there's no saying for how advanced it could have been. Would it have been advanced enough to create structures, say like the pyramids? So I watched a very interesting video, and again this is based on expeditions that went on in Antarctica. So there was an interview done in 2018, again not too dissimilar to in 2017, and in the video Linda Moulton Howe interviewed a supposed whistleblower who was an ex-Navy SEAL who revealed the secrets about Antarctica on the condition that she would not reveal his identity.
In July 2018, Linda Moulton Howe interviewed a whistleblower who offered to provide her with classified information regarding Antarctica. on the condition that she not reveal his identity. Her source, a retired Navy SEAL, who she identifies as Spartan 1, provided her with details of an ancient structure he claims to have visited during his time at the South Pole.
We were inbound the southeast coast of Antarctica. We were dispatched for, unofficially, was a research reconnaissance mission. Officially, it was to find a certain individual, obtain any information, and bring it back.
When he and his team reached their destination, they encountered a large octagonal structure protruding from the ice. Cautiously, they proceeded to enter it.
At the very top of the first structure that we entered, there was almost 18 feet poking from the ice. The rest of it was hidden under the ice. Each door was the same, anywhere from 18 feet thick to around 30 feet thick. And even though these doors were that thick and that heavy, you could take one finger and push them and they would open. There was no resistance whatsoever. The outside temperature was at least 40 degrees below zero. Once you stepped inside these structures, the temperature was an ambient 68 to 72 degrees.
What about the ceilings, hallways, floors?
It was lighted from the inside, but we could not find the source of light. It was a lime green in color. The walls were lined with what I call hieroglyphics, but nothing of hieroglyphics that I've ever seen in my life.
And since then, there's also been evidence, again, this has been disputed, but through NASA images, they think that they've spotted 1.5 miles beneath the world's surface, sort of structures that suggest they look like ancient squares or ancient canals. And most remarkably, in my opinion, is again satellite images that have revealed structures in the ice, which upon first glance could appear like mountains, but then people have actually taken this and run with it and suggested that they look very, very much like pyramids that are buried beneath the ice. So people have pointed out the fact that they do look perfectly shaped, a bit like the ones in Egypt. So I do want to start out by saying about these mountains is that triangular shaped mountains do occur in nature and that this happens all over the world. It's just how mountains are formed sometimes. An example of which is the Matterhorn in Switzerland. And fun fact, that is actually the mountain which is on the side of the Toblerone package, literally because it is triangular shaped and it just fits so perfectly on the side. But people have taken this and looked even closer and suggested that these are almost too perfect to just be naturally occurring mountains, especially the fact that the bases of these supposed pyramids, supposed mountains, are exactly 2 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide. Don't know about you, but I really want someone to start, dig in there and seeing what is actually really beneath it. Is it just rock? Or is this evidence of ancient civilizations buried in Antarctica? I'm so intrigued to know what you think. I mean, I see this from both sides, like, this is crazy to me. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video if you have, and yeah, let me know if there's any other topics that you want me to cover. Again, Antarctica is so mysterious to me. I would love to go in person and find out what is really happening. But there's plenty of other world mysteries, so let me know what you want me to cover next. Yeah, do make sure to stick around for the next video because it's one I'm very, very excited about. Again, Stanley Kubrick is just someone who fascinates me to no end. So yeah, part 2 is coming to that one, I promise. And yeah, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you have no idea how much appreciated it is, and I cannot wait to see you guys for my next video. Have a lovely 2 weeks in the meantime. Bye!